maybe you have some questions about exactly what to paint on. And I'm going to give you a couple of little pointers, things I like to do. If you've seen any of my work, you will definitely notice that they're all mostly kind of painted on the same surface. Now, in painting, of course, you can paint on a wide range of different materials. Maybe you have a certain material you like to paint on already, or maybe you have an idea that you can only paint on canvas. Now, painting on canvas is nice, but what I find with canvas is that it can become really expensive, especially if you're starting off as an artist, or maybe you're a little cheap, or maybe you don't necessarily enjoy the surface of canvas. And when I say the surface of canvas, most people have, maybe you're familiar with canvas panels. Canvas has a tendency, if you buy it pre-made, it's covered in a gesso, and that has a certain kind of tooth or texture kind of on the canvas. And that can be really good if you want to use watercolors even on it, or kind of a mixed media kind of surface. But what if you are wanting to do collage, or even kind of build up the surface with lots of heavy, thick paint? What I have found is that using this luan, or just these wood panels, is a great surface for that. For using, again, different applications of paint that include spray paint, collage, even hair, other kind of weird things, and even kind of screwing into the wood panels themselves. Now, in buying these wood panels, you can go to the hardware store, and within the hardware store they actually have these pre-cut panels. This is a 2 feet by 4 feet. You can even get it in a 2 by 2, and also up to 4 by 4, or even get a large sheet of, again, these wood panels, up to 4 by 8, but you definitely need a truck to, haul those paintings around. And again, with these panels, this is called luan. They're thin, it has a nice kind of smooth surface, but what I like about it is that it absorbs pretty well, and you don't have to gesso it, or kind of put a layer of paint down. I like to kind of expose some of the wood grain, or at least kind of that's the style recently. But you can definitely spray paint it. You can throw lots of other paint, and especially if I'm doing this outside, I'll even get kind of dirt, leaves, other kind of nastiness from the ground, just because it's inedible. The wind's going to blow, and it's all just kind of going to go onto that surface. But in using these wood panels, you do have to put a backing on the back of it. But you can definitely, you can kind of see in the background here, have stacks of them, and I'll put the wood panels on all at once, or the backing, to these panels all at once. But the cool thing, and the reason why I recommend buying these panels, is that it's relatively cheap in comparison. Now, with wood panels, you can definitely get more expensive wood. That includes birch and other things I can't think of at the moment, but it's all up to you. And you can definitely even buy certain kind of thicknesses, especially if you want to go large. Going large can definitely be a little intimidating, especially if you don't know what to paint, or you're a little kind of apprehensive on spending a lot of money on a canvas, in which you may totally ruin it. And the cool thing, again, about these is that it's cheap, under $10 for at least a 2 by 4 here. That does fit in your car, or at least in the back of my car, the back seat, nicely. And with these, if you want to kind of come in and even kind of cut them out, cut them down to size, maybe kind of a strange size, maybe a little bit more rectangle, you can do that. Now, the only tricky thing about cutting with these panels is that it does have, I call it like a skin, different kind of layers. So if you do want to cut, maybe if you have like a skull or whatever it may be, I definitely recommend buying MDF, which is still kind of a panel, but it's all of this kind of wood mush kind of put together. I have no idea, but I do have an example of that right here. MDF is a lot different you can see maybe not, that it definitely has the same kind of thickness, are similar to the Luan panels. This is actually very thin as well, but the MDF does come in different sizes. Most of your cheaper kind of furniture is made out of MDF, but it does cut a lot better, especially if you want, you know, nice kind of edges versus cutting the Luan panels. You will have to sand it afterwards because it will kind of cut off or have like splinters or the kind of rough edges with that as well. But again, just a cheaper alternative. I also use house latex paint. That way it actually adheres very well. You can definitely use other type of acrylic, but it will again hold paint very well along with other materials. You can even put polyurethane on top of these if you want to seal it, or other types of acrylic kind of clear coats. But you can also again do mixed media things, including gluing, you know, with paper, or even kind of screwing things down into it, or even kind of building up the surface with other types of objects and things like that. But again, it's definitely kind of a cheaper alternative. It's lighter. I definitely would not recommend using big pine panels because they can definitely become heavy, especially if you want to go very large. But the larger you go, naturally you will have to put good backings on the Luan panels, so that way it doesn't warp on you. And I will show you how to put the backings on these panels. So Luan sounds kind of crazy. Try to spell it or whatever, or find it at your local hardware store. They also call it door skins because they actually use it in a lot of DIY projects, including shelving or even kind of doors. A lot of your closet doors will be something very similar to this. You can even buy or even paint on just closet doors. Off the hinges maybe, but it's actually kind of the same type of material, and you can definitely find it again in most of your larger chains of hardware stores, and it's pre-cut, and again it's very inexpensive and a great alternative to canvas if you want to paint on a surface that's maybe a little bit larger or smoother or has kind of a different you know, texture versus canvas there. All right,